It's such an important song, so getting it right, we really wanted it to be about America and about God, and we didn't want people to just come in thinking we're on one side or the other.
In my mind, it's one of the few things that have come out that's not polarizing. It's unifying. Welcome to the 2% Factor podcast. Today, I'm so excited to have with us Jennifer Hart, country music star, just released a new song, God Save the USA. Please join me and Jennifer as we unpack the release of her song, what it's all about, and how she manages her busy schedule in Nashville. So welcome. Good to see you again.
Thanks. It's so fun to be in person this
I know,
time.
right?
It's fun to be in my home state too.
Miss Arizona.
Oh my gosh, 11 years ago.
Oh, that was it,
Which
really?
is so weird. 2013, yeah.
Wow.
It doesn't feel that long ago, but at the same time, it feels like it was a different life. So,
Yeah.
long time ago.
Yeah. So new song out, God
Yes.
Save the USA.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tell us about it.
Usually when I write songs, record songs, release songs, I kind of have somewhat of an idea of like what's coming out. This one was not planning on writing it, and then when I did write it, was not really planning on releasing it. So it was just one of those things that just happened organically. So my girlfriends and I had a songwriting session scheduled on July 13th at 5 p.m.
Okay.
And normally it was a Saturday. So usually writes aren't scheduled on Saturdays, especially at 5 p.m. But my friend Summer McMahon was in town. Emma Lynn White, Summer and I just scheduled a write. We're like, all right, let's just do this. We'll have fun. We can write. And if for whatever reason it goes wrong, like we'll just hang out. We're friends.
Yeah.
So Summer and I were running about 10 minutes behind, per usual. All musicians always run like at least 15 minutes late. If you're 15 minutes late, you're really early.
Well, for the record, you were on time today.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. I was supposed to get here 15 minutes early.
No, you're good.
So
Yeah.
technically I was late. But so we got there 10 minutes late, and Emma had the news on, and we had just found out that a former president, there was just like an assassination attempt on him. So our hearts were heavy. We were just like, what the heck is going on? We didn't really have any information yet. We didn't feel like we could just shift gears and just start writing a song. So we took a walk kind of to clear our minds, and we were just talking about life and America and where things have gone wrong. I feel like it's just so much more. And I don't know if it's because of the media or what, but we're just like, how did we come to this? So we took a walk to clear our minds, came back, and we just still couldn't shake the feeling. So we weren't even going to write a song. And then we were just like, you know what, let's just write what's on our hearts. And that chorus came out about an hour after it had happened. And we posted a little clip on social media, and people really resonated with it and loved it. And we did too. I mean, we truly like spoke from our hearts and our experience at that time. So
I actually had no idea that you wrote it the same day that happened.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Like literally an hour after.
That's amazing.
So it was very, very raw, very real, very fresh. And we're just like, we love our country. We're so proud to be Americans, but we're not proud of the behavior of people that, do anything like that.
Yeah,
so,
regardless of which side of the political aisle you're
absolutely.
on.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's all every side is messed up in some way.
Yeah.
So, and that's the whole point of this song. Like, the song is truly about America and bringing God back into America and kind of rebuilding the strong foundation that America was built on. And I feel like we've kind of gotten away from that. So the song is really just a prayer for America, a love song to America.
I know how important your faith is to you
Yeah,
as well. So that's
yeah,
a part of how this all came together for you.
exactly. Yeah. So it truly has become, like I said, like my prayer for America. So, and I feel like a lot of people can resonate with that as well. So it's a very special song. It's unlike anything I've ever done. I never thought I would have some sort of America song or patriotic song. I've never written a song like that before. So
Yeah.
I've never considered myself like a patriotic singer or anything. So, but it's just so real. And I feel like because of my faith and because of my love for people in this nation, it just resonates with who I am.
Is there a part of the song particularly for you that stands out for you?
So actually the verses, we went in and wrote those a couple days later. We actually wrote like 10 verses because we had so many thoughts. There was so much information, and we kind of just picked the best lines and wrote 2 verses and figured out which ones we wanted to choose. But I think when you bring the kids and the future generation into it, it really hits home because that's really what it's about. It's like if it's not for us, then for the children. Yeah. So it's the second verse. So we can't find you in our schools. You've been missing from the conversation. And every time we turn on the news, we're praying for the next generation. And then we mentioned in the first verse, like the kids can't even play outside anymore without being worried that they're not going to make it home. Yeah. So I think that really, really hits home for me.
I'm with you on that. There's certain places you were where you'll never forget where you were at.
Yeah.
I remember the moment where my son called. We found out there was a notification from the school that there was a shooter.
Oh my gosh. Not
necessarily in the school, but right outside and nearby. Yeah. And it's just that stomach, dropping moment where you realize that you're not in control, and immediately you want to drive there and kind of figure out what's going on. And
you do anything
the whole thing.
For your kids.
It's unbelievable.
It's so scary. It's just a scary situation. All of that all together. But and I'm a very nostalgic person, and I'm so grateful that I grew up in the 90s, and I feel like it's one of the last generations to experience childhood playing outside and not having cell phones and social media. I was in high school and didn't even have social media, and that was the greatest thing ever. I could not imagine facing the comparison of social media these days in high school. Yeah. I can't believe high schoolers have to go through that. I didn't have to go through that. So I just think about it a lot. I think about how things are just so different than when I grew up, and I just wish we could go outside and feel safe. Like even at my age now, I don't feel comfortable going on a walk alone anymore. And I used to never think about it. So in God Save the USA, what's your favorite verse? I actually think the bridge might be one of my favorite parts. It's I use scripture in it. It's we won't give up. We'll keep fighting for our freedom. And then Romans 8:31, if you are for us, who can never stand against us? So I think when I sing it live too, people really start to get really excited at that part. So it's fun. Well, I think what's cool about the song is it's a hopeful song. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I mean, it's inspiring change and positive thinking and love. Yeah. Really is what I get from it. Yeah. Nothing's done and gone yet. We're hopeful. That's right. Yeah. It's an evolution. So what kind of conversations do you hope that your new song inspires? When you brought up both sides, I don't want to sound cheesy here because I hate this like world peace. I was a Miss America contestant. You got to say your world peace. Yeah. But truly, like, I don't feel like there's ever been a time. I mean, of course we had the Civil War, but I feel like we're at that point again. I don't feel like there's ever been a time maybe other than that where we've just been so divided. So, and I do feel like the foundation of both sides could say we want the same things. Like we want unity and love, and sounds so cheesy, guys, world peace. But truly, like I feel like the Cue core. The Miss America music. Yeah, exactly. There she is. I feel like at the core, we probably want the same things, and we're just going about it in different ways. So I do want people to connect to the song, and I want people to become human and humane, and just, I don't know. I hope it changes people's perspective. Yeah. Well, it's good. I mean, if anything, it starts a conversation, right? Yeah. And helps people think about, maybe it might inspire people to recognize they have more in common than they think. Yeah. That's what I thought of. Exactly. Like at the end of the day, we're all human. Yeah. We're sinners. We're scared. We're fearful. We're hopeful. We love. We hate, and we shouldn't, but we do. And it's just, I agree. Yeah. Well, it's perfect timing. The election, everything that's going on. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Didn't even try to do that, so I'm like, all right, Jesus, take the wheel. I love it. And by the way, for people who don't know much about the songwriting process, which is me, and a lot of other people who who've never done it, they're not into it. What is that like? Is it for maybe typical artists? I mean, you have a lot of friends who are artists, right? Yeah. So I'm sure there's a spectrum on how that works. What can you share about that? Yeah, I'd say in a way it can be different every time, which makes it fun. Mm-hmm. The weird thing is that sometimes creativity, obviously you can't like plan for, but we have writing sessions scheduled in advance. So in a way you kind of have to plan for it and have to force yourself to create, which I think is really good and really bad. Sometimes you walk in and you're just like, I've got nothing. I'm not feeling this. And sometimes you just talk and you leave and you don't write. That doesn't happen that often, but it does. It's common for that to happen. But most of the time you walk in and our brains are on 24/7 looking for song ideas. You can't shut it off. I'll have dreams in the middle of the night, and I'll wake up and I'll write down a song idea. We can have a conversation and you say something that is a really cool line, or it sparks an idea, or I read a book, I watch a movie. There's so many ways you can come up with songs. So most of us, I feel like all of us, have a note of song ideas. So usually, unless like God Save the USA, something like that, where something happens and you write about it right away, most of the time you're kind of just always thinking about ideas and you bring it in and you talk to your co-writers, and usually one of the ideas sparks somebody's other ideas and
turns
you
into
kind of
something.
Yeah, and usually you can come up with like an agreement on one idea and everybody kind of feels it that day. But the interesting thing that I think is awesome is there's certain songs that I've brought in the idea for so many writes for so many years, and nobody liked the idea or resonated with it or wanted to write it. But then there was that one co-writer that did want to on that specific day, and it's just like that song turned out great for that day and for that person. But somebody else would have written it completely differently.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
The creative process.
Yeah. And usually you kind of start with an idea and then melodies and vibe and lyrics come. If everybody could sit in on a session, I think it would be really cool.
I do too. I think I would be horrible at it.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Sometimes
Like,
I am.
but
sometimes I'm awful.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah. I have off days. The cool thing is sometimes you'll go into a writing session and you feel like you hardly contributed and you barely wrote a word, but you still split the percentages evenly. But then sometimes I'll go in and I write majority of the song, and then you still split it evenly. So I feel like it kind of levels out.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's funny. So it almost sounds like a muscle you can build.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think in blogs, I know that's weird. It's kind of
Yeah.
nerdy, but I do.
I'm like, that's like junior high for me.
I literally, I'll hear something and think, I guess maybe it's my marketing hat on, but I'll think to myself, well, that's a good blog idea.
Yeah.
Even though I don't even.
Well, similar to songs. Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, it is. You're constantly thinking about ideas like that. I mean, writing is writing.
Yeah.
We just happen to put it to melodies.
Yeah.
It's like a poem.
Yeah.
Not much of a difference.
So how do you balance your life when you're talking about all these, your schedule's pretty nuts, right? I mean, you've got a lot going on.
Yeah.
You're writing new songs. You're always traveling, performing. How do you deal with balancing your schedule in real life? You don't?
So I was actually just talking to my dad about this the other day. I am naturally a very type A morning person. So growing up in school, I had to get up at 5 a.m. in high school because I had cheer before school. And then we had school and then cheer after school and then games at night, competitions on the weekend. Like I had such a set schedule. So I was very disciplined. I was like 7 p.m. I was home every night. 8 p.m. I was getting ready for bed. 9 p.m. I was asleep. 4 or 5 a.m. I was up. I worked really well off of that. I never procrastinated. I always had my homework and anything done at least a few days in advance. Naturally, that's how I thrive. But the music business is polar opposite. You can't really be a morning person when you have a show that starts at 10 p.m. And then our writes usually start at 11 a.m. So that's a pretty late start to a work day. But most people get up right before that. So it's really hard for me to find a set schedule when things just get thrown at you. And I can't really be like, okay, I'm in at 8 p.m. because there's always networking events. And someone's always like, hey, do you want to go to this show with me tonight? There's always stuff that gets thrown at you. So I'm still figuring it out, to be honest.
So is there anything you do to kind of anchor your anxiety?
There's a lot.
Okay.
So I grew up with anxiety.
Yeah. Well, in our last conversation together, you talked a lot about that and some things you do and how you've overcome quite a bit.
Yep. I was diagnosed at 10, but I mean, back to when I was 2-3 years old, like I was screaming in a car seat because I was too claustrophobic and felt like I couldn't breathe. Now we know that was anxiety. I would scream all the time like I can't breathe. So something I did as a kid, there's this supplement called Melissa Supreme. I think it's an herb. It's like a little dropper thing.
Are you sponsored?
No,
Okay,
but I should
here we
be.
go, yeah.
Sponsor me.
First sponsor, 2%
yeah,
factor.
exactly. And I should know the ingredients. I know it's like a natural herb.
Yeah.
But I put it in warm water and it really calmed me. And I don't know how much of it was like it actually worked and then it's just like the routine. Because sometimes when I didn't have Melissa, I would just do hot water or hot tea. Yeah. So I'll truly do hot tea, hot water, or Melissa if I have it. So that's something that it's like a habitual thing that kind of I'm like, okay, we're relaxing.
Yeah.
We're working on that. I drink tea all day, every day, hot tea, even in 120 degrees. I love it. That's one thing that's just like a really quick thing. It doesn't always solve the problem, but I feel like it starts to get me there. Big fan of therapy. What my therapist always reminds me to do is to go to my like safe place, which for me it's a beach, a spa day, sunshine, fruit juices, all that kind of stuff, and truly just like visualizing yourself being there.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the biggest things that at first I was like, that's just weird therapy stuff. And I'm just like, no, it actually works.
Yeah.
It
definitely
calms
works.
your heart rate and it like you forget about things. Another big thing is just distracting yourself.
Yeah.
My sister, I mean, she's my sister. She was one of my best friends in the world, and she grew up seeing how bad my anxiety's been. So I kind of go to her sometimes. I'm like, hey, I'm really struggling with anxiety right now. Can you help me? And she'll just totally talk about something else, bring up another subject, send me a podcast, and then I'll forget that I had anxiety. And then she was like, hey, you made it through 30 minutes. Congratulations. And I was like, wow, thanks. So really work on distracting myself. Doesn't always work, but oftentimes it does. So
that's a cool idea.
Just like not focusing on what you have anxiety about.
I'm curious, when you think back to the tea, for an example.
Yeah.
Is there like a place you can remember, or do you go back to a moment in time where you started doing that and it changed something for you? Or is it something that evolved through time?
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a great question. This is silly, but I remember the cup. It's the same cup my mom gave it to me in. So I think it's more of just building a habit,
Some
like a
familiarity.
nighttime routine, but an anxiety routine, familiarity. Exactly. It's a constant in your life that you're like, okay, maybe it helped one time and I remembered that it helped. So then even if it's psychologically, like it helps.
I totally agree with this. And the reason I wonder that is because when I was young, I guess I was maybe like 24.
Yeah.
And I used to get airsick.
Okay.
Every single airplane I got on.
Okay.
Like,
wow.
I mean, every time I would vomit.
Oh my gosh.
And it was
it's
always
miserable.
when you came to, it was terrible.
Yeah.
And always it's embarrassing, it's a terrible thing. You have to grab the bag out of the front.
Yeah.
Then I got into tech and I wanted to, I got a traveling job, but then the fear starts coming in of what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Like you literally throw up on every single airplane, and it would be something where you flew once a week. And so I interviewed for this job. I got the job, and I was flying down to headquarters in Florida for like my first training. And I went and visited my dad, and I threw up on the plane. And I landed, and I went, how am I going to fly 50 weeks a year and keep this up? And I went down to the beach. I'll never forget it. And it literally changed everything for me. I went down to the beach. I sat there in like a quiet moment, and just kind of like your tea. That moment kind of, I let that almost be a place that brought peace and kind of a tranquil environment. And then every single time I was about to get sick, I know it sounds crazy, I would bring my mind to that place when we're landing the plane. I never threw up again.
No way.
Never.
So do you think
until
you have
yesterday flying back
anxiety?
in? No.
Yeah, you threw up. That's a long flight.
Yeah. No, but literally I threw up every single time, everywhere I went.
Gosh.
And then when I did that, you're right, it was like a therapy session for myself.
Yeah.
My mind went to another place. It calmed my body down, and I never got airsick again.
Did you have flight anxiety, or was it like a physical motion
No,
sickness,
like I get, the person that gets sick at the fair?
Yeah.
Like, I would get sick watching it go around.
Did you get vertigo after flights?
I mean, just everything. Yeah. And I'd have to sit there for half an hour. And since that moment, so that's why I wondered if you remember a moment. Like for me, I remember exactly where I was sitting, what I was thinking.
Yeah, the funny thing is I just remember like the one cup that it's in. So even in Nashville, I usually have my one teacup that I use the same thing in. So, I mean, I have tons of teacups, but when I do Melissa or when I'm doing it for anxiety, I usually have like a couple of my favorites. But I do remember it's like the attachment of the safety there with my mom and my dad. I mean, at 10 years old, if they tell me I'm okay, specifically my dad, if he told me I'm safe and I can breathe and I'm not going to die, and that was tied to the T, then I'm like, okay, I trust my dad. He's smart. He's my protector. He comforts me. So I think there was something with him too that kind of tied to the T.
So tell me about your routines for your day. Like what is your daily Jennifer Hart like?
Yes, my ideal routine that I really try to stick to is get up in the morning. I have to work out or walk before I do anything else. Otherwise, I will not do it. I just know myself. Sometimes I'll go for like a night walk with my husband or my friends or something, but have to get it done in the morning. I feel so good doing it on an empty stomach, first 30 minutes of the day. That's ideal. Winters are really hard for me, so I'm still figuring that out. And then I like to do my Bible study. I'm not a big journaler. I don't even know if that's a word, but I've never really liked journaling. I tried to force myself to do it. I think I'm thinking back to my journals when I was a kid. I get really OCD about if I don't journal perfectly. So I think that's why I don't like to do it all together. Because it kind of triggers my OCD instead of helping it.
You're a judgy journaler.
Yeah, I am. I'm like, you didn't say that right. And then I'm like, oh, but you have to add this. And if you don't, then this is going to happen. Like truly my interest
you're stressed out from journaling.
Exactly. So I'm like, I think it's doing the opposite effect to me. I get same thing with just schedules and routines in general. I have to be really careful with myself because I get so obsessive. And if I don't do it exactly how I'm supposed to do, and if I don't do it perfectly, then I feel like my whole day's messed up. So I really have to be gentle with what my morning routine is. So I'm like, yes, if I have time to work out and walk, that's ideal, at least 3 times a week. Try to do Bible study every morning. And those are my 2 main, like, got to hit these points. And then everything else is like, I try not to put it on a schedule. So I drink my tea. I drink my lemon water. I eat breakfast. But I'm like, that's not a part of my to-do list because I'll go crazy. Morning routines are so important to me. I try to get sunshine in the morning if I can too. It's not always sunny in Nashville, especially in the winter months. But I don't know, just kind of doing my best to start off my day in the first couple hours of the day in like that mindset, and I try to not have my cell phone the whole time.
How do you feel having a routine like that and structure impacts your ability to be successful as a singer, as a writer, as a performer?
I feel like it just sets the day up for success. I do notice when I do grab my phone first thing in the morning, I am mentally just like not great the whole day. Just why would you start out your phone on social media or just jumping into emails right when you wake up? So I really, really try at least the first 30 minutes of the day to not have my phone at all, but I really try to do the first couple hours. I just noticed my mental clarity is so much nicer and everything is more clear. I am a little more grounded and present instead of just like busy and all. I'm very... I don't know. I have ADD, ADHD. I don't really know the difference, but I'm very like, I have 1,000 tabs open at the same time and I can't finish like one task at one time. So when I don't have my phone in the mornings, I feel like I'm like, I can work out without texting and emailing at the same time as working out. So that I think no phone is
it's key.
One of the best things to start my morning off.
I just saw on the news actually this morning, there are several schools are starting to have a no phone policy actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And to your email comment, I read a book years ago. I don't follow it very well anymore, but I should. But it said, the title of the book was Never Read Your Email in the Morning.
Yeah.
Like always giving yourself a little time to plan your day. Honestly, I think planning your day the night before, to me is key.
Yeah.
When I wake up.
The morning routine thing can only work if you have somewhat of a night routine too, because if you're getting to bed at midnight or 2 a.m. or whatever, which is very common in the music business,
Yeah.
you're not going to get up at 7 a.m. You need your sleep. Sleep is also more important than getting up early and exercising. So it's a balance. It's trying to figure out both your somewhat of a night and morning routine.
I agree with you. I'll share a rule that I have. And as a matter of fact, I just shared this with a couple friends a couple days ago, which was kind of weird because we've never talked about this before.
Yeah.
But I set something for myself years ago where I don't talk about anything or think about anything complicated after 9 p.m.
How do you do that?
I mean, I literally am like dedicated to it.
See, I can, like, I
Like
shouldn't
conversation.
say I can't, but shutting off my brain,
Yeah.
that's the hardest part for me.
It is really hard, but to me, it impacts sleep.
Yeah.
And then it impacts the next day.
Yeah.
And then I notice a massive difference if I break the rule.
Yeah.
And so literally after 9, nothing complicated.
Yeah.
Whether that's conversation with your girlfriend or thinking about work. I find when I do anything along those lines, all of a sudden I didn't sleep. My mind's racing all night.
Teach me. I'm like, I don't know how to shut off my brain. That's something that's really hard for me. I need to be better about having no phone the last hour or two of the day, just as I am the first 2 hours of the day. Because I'm like, I can't go to bed after my phone was just right here. So, and then even if I'm relaxing, watching TV shows, like even that kind of keeps my mind dreaming about what I was just watching. So I'm like, I really need to do
no
something
complicated shows.
That's true.
The key.
I'm a very not complicated show. Well, I'm watching One Tree Hill again right now, which I haven't seen since like high school. And I feel like it's very complicated, even though it's not supposed to be. There's a lot that goes on in that show. There's so much more than I remembered. I'm stressed every day. And today, I was watching it a little bit today when I was watching my nephew, and I was like, I'm getting emotional watching this show. What the heck? Shouldn't be that way. I'm not usually a big TV person. When I have one show, I'll watch it till it's done, but then I've seen like 4 shows total ever. I don't watch TV much.
When you look at the things that have gone well for you, like the songs that have hit, your previous song, as well. I think it hit number 1 on the
it was
country chart.
I think it was 3.
It was number 1
we
to
can
me.
say, we can say it was number 1. It was number 1 to my dad too. So
good.
It works.
But when you look at the things that have gone well in your life, what are the common threads for you when you kind of reflect back on why those things went well and why they happened?
I feel like the biggest thing is not following the mold and like what people tell you to do. It's just like staying true to yourself, just working hard and doing what you want to do. But like, I just don't like it when people are saying this is the exact way to get to here. Because especially in the music business, what works for somebody is not going to work for another person necessarily. And I find that most of the time, it never duplicates itself. So I feel like not only my success story in anything that's happened in my career, but everybody I notice, they kind of all have their own thing. It's either the person who's the 1 in a million, or it's the person who toured for 10 years before they got their first hit, or it's the person who was on YouTube famous, or, whatever it may be. It's like everybody kind of does their own thing. I do have some friends that kind of get stuck in their ways, and they're like, this is working for me, it's going to work for you. And it doesn't. So I feel like it's not necessarily I will take people's advice and I'll pick and choose what I feel like is my path and my journey, and I'll try things and I'll fail. But I really think it's just realizing that you're on your own path, and you just try things and you see what works for you. That's when things have worked. Yeah. It's like not when I've really planned it. It's just I work hard for it, and then I see the fruits of my hard work.
I just watched a video with Jim Carrey, and he was in like a vulnerable moment, and he started sharing kind of a variety of different success moments that he's had in his life, and he's huge on manifesting.
Yes. Oh, that too.
Did you know that about him?
I did not.
I didn't either.
That manifesting is huge.
Yeah, he actually gave 5 to 10 examples of, in his mind, what he wanted to have happen. As small as when he was a child, not having a bike, and a mixture of manifestation, belief, prayer, in his own way, saying, I want this to happen. And he gave like all these examples of what occurred for him all the way through his adult life to his movies and everything.
Gosh, so
It was really incredible.
I love hearing that with people who are so successful, especially in entertainment. Like you just see all their characters and you're like, they got themselves there. Obviously, the hard work is a given. You work hard, you try things, you fail so many more times than you succeed. But manifestation's huge to me too. Like when I won Miss Arizona, I really focused on that for 9 months before prepping. And it was like the first generation of Siri or something, but I had her call me Miss Arizona before I won. So it was just like getting used to the fact of like, I am Miss Arizona. I am winning. I already won, that kind of thing. So
that's actually really cool that you did that.
Yeah.
That belief, that confidence. I don't know. I think there's so many learning lessons. I wish I would have had a podcast like this to listen to when I was younger. Like, because you're right. I mean, those things are so huge. A mutual friend of ours, I did not know this story. I've been friends with him for years. So Hayden, who was on the podcast maybe a month or two ago, he had a dream that he won a contest. And I know. And before he was even called to be on Big Brother, he had a dream that he won $500,000. Specifically $500,000 and won it like on a reality show, on a contest of some sort. And he woke up in the morning and said, well, that's a weird dream. And then literally a week later gets approached by someone who happens to be in casting and then went down the journey and then went on Big Brother and won Big Brother.
See, to me, that's like, for my faith, I'm like, that's kind of like a spiritual thing too, but that's really cool.
It's
and
amazing.
That's in the back of your mind, and then you do it, and then he won.
Just like you with Siri, I mean, he, from that moment on, believed he was going to win.
Yeah.
So he had that confidence in his mind. Now, you still have to make the choices.
Yeah.
And you still have to put in the work.
Exactly. Yep.
But carrying that confidence with you, I think, has so much to do with people with success and kind of those 2% factor moments, if you will, of how do you make it happen. It's interesting. Yeah.
That's so cool. I did not know that. But I agree. Manifestation is huge. I have to remind myself every day to do that.
I think your point right there is a really good one too. Intentional manifestation, like intentional positive thinking about where you're trying to go, whatever career you're in.
Yeah.
You know,
I was never the one that, I'm not kidding you. There were literally girls backstage before the crowning moment of Miss America and Miss Arizona who like practiced
the wave.
It was a little cringe. Like they would practice their wave and like their reaction of like, this is what I'm going to do when I get crowned. Never did that. That was a real thing. But I really did, the whole time I was preparing for months, I really did like lay back in bed before bed and I would pray and I would visualize like what it would feel like when I won. So I kind of did have that expectation, but then I was also like, okay, I know I want to win. God, you know I want to win, but like I'm working hard and I'm like in a really good spot where I feel really good about doing the best I can do. And then the major thing too, this is so hard in the music business. I really nailed it for Miss Arizona, but I'm like, that's a 1 year out of your life. It's such a small season. Music is every day, hopefully for the rest of my life. But the comparison thing and social media doesn't help. Social media was not that big when I competed for Miss Arizona and Miss America. But I really focused on what I can control and how I can be the best version of myself, because I was like, what is the point of looking at another contestant? I'm like, oh my gosh, their talent is so much better than mine. Their interview is so much better than mine. And then I'm just focusing on them. Yeah. And I can't make them do worse, as much as maybe I'd be like, I would like to, so I can look better. But I was just like, nope, they have their talent and they're going to do the best they can do. And all I can do is focus on like where I can grow. So I really nailed that then. And I really need to do better at that now.
Stick with that.
Yeah. It's so much harder because if you're not comparing yourself in the music business, somebody else is comparing you. So it's hard to get away from.
I always like to think about it like looking through the windshield, you know, what's in front of you as compared to the rearview mirror, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think about competition in my mind being in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
Because when you're looking at what's happening with the competitors, again, whether you're in
Yeah.
music industry or tech or anywhere
Anything.
else,
Yeah.
it's what they've just done that you've seen. And a lot of times I'll use that.
Yeah.
So I'll just, no, I'm looking forward,
Oh yeah.
versus what's behind me.
Yeah, exactly. Which I love that too, because sometimes I'll get stuck in the mindset of, oh, I need to get back to there. I need to get back to how I was in this season of my life. And it's like, you want to move forward, and you can have certain qualities that you use at that time. But the difference is like high school, college, Miss Arizona, your only job is that at the time. And now it's like I have so many more things that I'm doing, and my focus has shifted and my priorities have changed. So I can never get back to that. And I never want to. I want to grow from that. And I always knew that Miss America was not going to be the biggest stage I stood on. I said that when I was on the Miss America stage, which was also really cool, manifesting like this is a step into, the future. So that's a really cool thing. It's cool to like look back on that and remember that, but then just move forward with stuff.
Of course.
Yeah.
Is there, from a musical standpoint, being a performer and musician, is there a venue that's a dream venue for you?
There's a lot. I would say a hometown show is probably the biggest dream, whether that's like Talking Stick Arena. Is it still called Talking Stick? They change it all the time.
Downtown?
Yeah.
I think now
What's
it's
that called?
Footprint.
Is it really?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I could be wrong.
wherever
Yeah.
the Suns play, whatever it's named now.
Well, you grew up with,
Yeah.
during the Suns era, which was incredible.
Yeah. Like
back in the day,
Auction
too.
Pavilion would be awesome. I have a thing for arenas. I love arenas so much. So I would like to do hometown show in an arena. And then, of course, like Madison Square Garden. Everybody loves Red Rocks in Colorado.
That's actually what was on my mind.
Yeah.
Red Rocks, yeah.
Everybody pretty much says that. I think hometown would be number one for me, though.
What's life really like in Nashville? I mean, because you moved out there as an Arizona girl.
Yeah.
Like, is there just incredible country music everywhere? Like, that's how I imagine it to be. I've actually never been.
You haven't been to Nashville?
No, I know.
Wow, you need to go.
That's wild, right?
Yeah, I feel like there's a couple different parts of Nashville. When tourists come to see Nashville, they really only see downtown, and that's like there's a lot of cover bands down on Broadway. But I think the true Nashville is getting off of Broadway and going to songwriters rounds, which is what we're actually doing there as songwriters, is we're writing music.
So what's songwriters rounds?
So good question. I assume everybody knows what that is, but I didn't know what it was when I moved to Nashville. So it's basically like songwriter. Instead of being on stage and playing cover songs, you're singing your own songs that may or may not be released yet. So I'll sing on stage with usually 2 or 3 other songwriters or artists, and we just going around one song at a time for 1 to 2 hours.
Is that like at a bar, at a
they have venues. Yeah, they have
Coffee
venues, they have
shops
restaurants,
and-
bars. Yeah, like the Bluebird Cafe, I'm sure you've heard of. There's something called the Listening Room. Those are some of the best songwriters venues.
And is that published?
can.
It would be like certain times you can come and get
Yeah.
lucky and catch an artist that's trying
they
out a
have
song?
like ticket sales and stuff. So
Okay.
it's kind of like you're going to a show. You can enjoy
Yeah.
dinner, but it's such an intimate setting because you get to, as the audience, you get to watch the songwriters tell the story behind the song.
How cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's one of my favorite things to do. If you go to Nashville, that's my number
That's
one
a hidden,
recommendation.
that's a little gem right there that you just
Yeah.
gave the
Yeah.
any listeners. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because
That's
when before I moved to Nashville, songwriters really aren't recognized. Everybody knows who the artist is, and I do both, but sometimes I'll do a round with people who only want to be songwriters and they're not doing the artist thing, and they have major cuts by Blake Shelton and Carrie Underwood and Jason Aldean, everybody.
Nobody would know who they are.
And nobody knows who they are, but they know the songs. So that's something so cool about writers' rounds is you get to see like the people behind the writing of the song. And then,
some of them have incredible voices.
yeah.
Like Chris
Yeah.
Stapleton before he
Oh,
started
yeah.
singing.
Yep.
Right? He was started more on the songwriting side.
There's a lot of songwriters that have great voices. They just had no desire to record the songs and tour, which I totally understand. Being an artist is sometimes I wish I didn't have the desire to be an artist, but I'm like,
You got the bug.
I got the bug. I'm such an artist.
Well, that's cool. Okay, so that's the thing is getting off the beaten path a little bit, getting over
Yes.
to the songwriters rounds.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be a
Yeah,
that would
but
be
it
a cool
definitely
choice.
it is Music City. I mean, there's music everywhere, whether it's kind of songwriting stuff or cover songs.
Talent
It's everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah, I definitely look forward to going at some point.
Yeah.
And
Let me
I'm
know.
going to take your tip. I'm going to take your songwriters rounds tip.
You have
Yeah,
to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you so much for joining. Where can people find your new song?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
God Save the USA.
On wherever you listen to your music, Apple Music, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, everywhere. And then social media, I'm at Jennifer Hart on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever else there is, YouTube.
Yeah.
All the things.
Amazing. I hope this song it just blows up for you. I hope it goes viral. It's
Thank
a
you.
beautiful song. I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really do. It's so good. Thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing all the things you've shared, being vulnerable, and all the tips. I think there's just amazing gems that you've shared with everybody. So I appreciate it.
Always. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
This is fun.
Thank you for joining the 2% Factor. Please like, follow, subscribe, all the good things, and we look forward to seeing you next time.